Today I thought it would be fun to look at the Sonic the Hedgehog comic books. Now, from my understanding, this series picks up immediately after Sonic Forces, and then it goes into the IDW series that we're going to be covering here. If you guys enjoy this comic, we could bring it to you on a pretty regular basis, rotating it around by Assassin's Creed coverage, and start diving into more Sonic lore. But let's go ahead and start with this very first comic book, Sonic Volume 1, Fallout. Sonic the Hedgehog has spent years fighting the forces of Dr. Eggman. Time and again, the Mad Doctor attacks, Sonic strikes back, and then relaxes until Eggman returns. But after their last battle, in Sonic Forces, Dr. Eggman vanished, but his robot army did not. In the coming days after the war, Sonic travels all across the land, putting out the fires that the leftover badniks seem to be starting. And one afternoon, Sonic spots another local town in need of his assistance. He races in to save some of the town's militia and get them back on their feet. He then runs through stopping a few baddies from attacking some of the citizens, just trying to hide in a spectacular fashion. That is until he meets a rather large hammer-wielding robot. Sonic curls up into a ball, propelling himself, bouncing off the walls to gain momentum and attack. His attack is easily deflected, and now he finds himself in the middle of not one, but 4 hammer-wielding robots. The 4 robots all lift their hammers and strike at once. And it's across the way that Sonic pops out of a sewer, reminding them that hedgehogs are a burrowing type of creature. However, the joke doesn't seem to go over very well as the robots begin to run after him. Just before the robot is close enough to swing his hammer, Tails swoops in at the last second, pulling Sonic out, asking, "Can you not risk your life for 5 minutes? Where's the fun in that?" But seriously though, thanks to the save, Tails tells him that it's his pleasure. But what's the status of the town? Sonic explains that the small fry badniks have been mostly taken care of, and whatever is remaining of the town's militia can handle what's left. As for the super badniks, well, that's a different story. Tails then says that those ones are better left to the professionals. And Sonic tells him, "That's right, let's show him how it's done." The two grab a hold of each other's arms and they begin to spin in place, rocketing through and shredding one of the robots. As they reach the second robot, Tails flies up, grabbing Sonic by the hands, flinging him forward, knocking over the second. Once the third is taken out, Tails wipes his forehead, stating that this would be going a lot faster if they had Knuckles with them. "Nah, we're doing just fine. Just one more to deal with, Tails." As the Batniks begin to retreat, Sonic speeds up to the final super robot and bounces off his leg and then onto a building and then up onto its hammer and right onto its head. He calls out to lower the gate so that they can finish things up here. And Tails flies up to the lever, trapping the smaller ones inside. After running into the giant steel gate and breaking mostly themselves, Sonic stretches, telling him, "Just another day saved thanks to Sonic and Tails." Tails tells him that he'd normally agree, but this was a much more coordinated attack. At least compared to anything that they've seen before. "Really? I hadn't noticed," Sonic tells him, and Tails stares at him. "Fine." The egg hammers were new to the mix. Tails tells him that that isn't what he means. After they beat Dr. Eggman and his forces, they broke the Eggman Empire's control over the world. The Batnik army remained, but not as a unified unit. Any attacks seem more like accidents than aggression. But today, the unified troop movements, the super Batniks being deployed, setting up ambushes, something is making Eggman's army much more cohesive, Sonic. That does make sense. Is it possible that Eggman is back? Tails thinks about it. Without any sort of angry vlogs? No way. After that last defeat, he'd make sure that we knew that he was back. Well, if that's the case, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. These Batniks are a threat to everyone, organized or not. So I'm gonna keep traveling around the world, smashing up every single one of them. But Sonic, if they're getting orders from someone, just be careful. If you get caught off guard again and get hurt, seeing the worried look on Tails' face, Sonic tells him, "We've had some close calls, but we've always come out fine in the end, right? I'll be careful, I promise. And if you want, we can team up again." Tails gets ready to tell him yes, but sees the destruction being left behind. There's too many Batnik gangs out there. You'll find them much faster alone. I'll stay and help the locals rebuild. The two say their goodbyes, but as Sonic leaves to the next town in need, one of the Batnik robots flies up watching. Meanwhile, elsewhere, in the Eggman lab, a voice says that it would seem that Sonic has survived the first trial. It is time to deploy a battalion to the nearest town, and he'll be drawn to it like a moth to a flame, and make sure that Sonic's latest success reaches the resistance. That way they can crush both hedgehogs in one strike. Not long after leaving the first village, Sonic finds himself fighting against a giant crab robot as it makes its way towards an unsuspecting town. He quickly jumps up along the spikes of the outer shell, landing on the top, and he begins to spin dash in place to generate enough speed to rip through its defenses. He then launches himself high into the air to come crashing down through it. As he lands, he bows to the townspeople, but then someone notices the robot is still active. He turns to finish it off, but before he can even move, Amy whacks it with her mallet, telling Sonic that he's getting a little sloppy. Sonic looks at her. Right. Fancy meeting you here. So she tells them that she heard about what he and Tails did in the neighboring town and hurried over. She just knew that he'd stop by here. He then tells her that word travels fast. But looks like you got things under control here. Thanks for the save. Later. Amy calls out to him to wait. She specifically came to see him. I know, it's kind of your thing. Blushing a little, she shouts back. Not like that. That is, it's not like I'm not happy to see you and would follow you anywhere if you'd let me, but you need to come back to the Resistance. The cleanup efforts are going well, but they didn't account for just how big Eggman's army actually is. The leftover robots are everywhere, even without Eggman to lead them, and Sonic turns to leave. Nah, pass. For the love of... Why, Sonic? He explains Tails' findings in the last town, and tells her that something is up, especially without Eggman around. They need to figure out what it is, and fast. She tries to convince Sonic to come back with her, and one of the townspeople runs up screaming that there's an emergency. They're under attack. Sonic tells them not to worry, he'll thin them out. Amy, keep an eye on everyone! While Amy gathers up everyone in the town hall, Sonic runs through the town, bouncing and destroying one Batnik after another. As they are setting up in the town hall, Amy orders the militia to fire, and the army begins to shoot on what robots Sonic has missed. But they quickly realize that even though they now have a fortified defense, they're going to need to take out the rest of the Batniks. So Sonic takes Amy's hand, and they speed through as he swings her around and dozens of robots fall to her hammer. She tries to convince him that they could fight this way all the time if he just came back, but Sonic continually tells her no. She even eventually offers him chili dogs, but he still ignores her offers. Eventually, the Batniks continue to fly towards them, so Sonic says that they should be trying the Croquet Bomber. Amy winds up her hammer while Sonic is charging up a spin dash, and she hits him, launching him into the air, sending him right into the middle of the dropship. As it explodes, Sonic falls to the ground laughing. Ha! You knocked me right into the power cell! What a shot! He dusts himself off, and she realizes that the invasion is over. She asks if he's going to be going, and Sonic tells her, yeah. It's what I do. I keep moving, doing good, saving folks, and living as free as the wind, living by my own code. She stares for a moment and then sighs and shakes her head. It's who he is, and that's why she loves him. But if he needs directions, Knuckles went to investigate a town to the south. She hasn't heard from him in a bit, so he might need some help. Sonic arrives at the next town watching a giant Batnik get dismantled, stating that it looks like for once he's late to the party, because it looks like Knuckles hogged all the fun. Knuckles pulls himself out of the wreckage of the robot he just defeated. Hey, long time no see! What brings you out here, Sonic? Sonic explains that he just ran into Amy and he was looking into the trouble over here and figured that he'd lend Knuckles a hand, especially since Commander Knuckles is so far away from the HQ. Knuckles groans, don't remind me. It was more interesting when we were fighting to save the world. Now we're focused on rebuilding. It's all about scheduling and inventorying. Pah! I got no patience for that. Amy was trying to get me to enlist. What's going on here? Knuckles tells him that the town is a hub for the Wispin distribution. The shipments have suddenly dried up, so he came to see why. He then turns to the gatekeeper. Hey, I'm the commander of the Resistance. All the robots are destroyed, so open the gate. The person in the tower says that they're sorry, but the orders are to not open the gate for anyone. When the guy won't tell Knuckles who ordered that, Knuckles and Sonic run up the walls and land inside. As everyone begins to run into their homes, Knuckles asks what has them all spooked. The townsfolk explained that they took all the Wisps and Wispins. Without the Wispins or a way to power them, they don't stand a chance. They're unstoppable. Knuckles wants to know who they is, and the townsfolk explained that just before the war ended, a couple of mercenaries showed up. They were ferocious, and they drove back Eggman's forces, and they saved the town. They said they were going to improve defenses, but what they really did was take their arsenal and took them prisoner within their own town. So Sonic looks at Knuckles. I guess we're gonna have to take our complaints straight to management. Knuckles pounds his fist. Oh, absolutely. Sonic and Knuckles break into the supply depot, where they immediately find the captive Wisps. And they let the Wisps know that before Tails went off on his own, he gave them a cipher to understand the Wisp language. They helped in the fight against Eggman, but these guys are just being hoarded. This is inexcusable. At that moment, the two hear laughing coming from the next room, and they sneak over to see the two mercenaries mentioned before eating like kings, calling the servants around them idiots and carrying on. Knuckles and Sonic begin to try and battle against the two mercenaries. But they're quickly beaten, with Tumble even grabbing Sonic and dribbling him like a basketball, shooting him into the air. Sonic lands feet first on a pole and then rockets back, hitting Tumble square in the face. After the battle's pretty much at a standstill, Knuckle is rubbing his face from all of the damage he's taken, telling Sonic that he's going to distract. You get a Wispin of your own, but Sonic tells them he has a better idea. Hey, it's your old buddy Sonic! I saved your planet from Dr. Eggman, remember? We could use your help here, Wisps. Don't let those jerks boss you around. The Wisps within the weapons that Rough and Tumble are holding escape their containers along with every other Wisp in the building, and they begin to attack the two mercenaries. The two skunks try to force the Wisps back into their weapons, but with the combined efforts of the Wisps and Sonic and Knuckles, Rough and Tumble are easily taken out and arrested. The townsfolk run out stating that they're saved. Whatever can they do to repay them? So Sonic tells them to serve up some chili dogs and they'll call it even. But while the town is celebrating, the watchful robot records Sonic's victory. The shadowy figure from the beginning of our story says that if Knuckles is here, that means that Angel Island is unguarded, and the Master Emerald is available. That will accelerate plans considerably. It wasn't long before Sonic began to find the next town that he was needed in, except for this town, it already seemed like it was too late. As he turns the corner to jump into the fight, he notices a lemur using her tail to take out most of the baddies. She flings one robot into another, destroying it, but it also damages her tail in the process. As she runs around yelling, "Ow, ow, 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 ow!" As one of the robots is about to shoot her in the back, Sonic jumps in to save her. "Hey, you missed one!" He begins to bounce off of the remaining robots, and the woman laughs. She introduces herself as Tangle the Lemur. Sonic shakes her tail. "Chart!" The giant ladybug robot continues to fire, destroying some of its own, and Sonic and Tangle dodge out of the way, but that's when more of them begin to show up. Tangle asks if Sonic wants to split it 50-50. He says sure. But just as they're about to spring into action, a large fireball lands, and out of the smoke stands Blaze. Tangle starts to wonder what's happening, and Sonic waves. "Hey, Blaze! If you're here, I can assume that these are Eggman robots." "Oh, you know it! The village needs some help. If you don't mind." Blaze lights up her fist, telling him, "It would be my pleasure." Using her pyrotechnic powers, Blaze makes short work of the lesser Batnik. And just as one of the large ladybugs has its sights set on her, Tangle reaches up with her tail, pulling herself up, jumping on the gun so it can begin to shoot itself. Once that's done, she wraps her tail around one of the large hooks, flinging it over to the second ladybug, destroying it before it has a chance to slam its own hook into Sonic. After that, the three look around to see where the robots are coming from and spot a large dropship high up in the air. But it's so high that none of them can easily reach it. Tangle says that she knows what they all just met, but hop on her tail. Using the large hook as an anchor, Tangle wraps her tail around it, slingshotting Sonic and Blaze into the air. Blaze begins to charge up, with Sonic using her abilities to launch him further upwards into the ship. Seconds later, the ship begins to explode from the inside, and Blaze fires a fiery blast to finish things off. As Blaze comes back to the ground, Tangle runs up. "That was amazing! But is Sonic gonna be okay?" Blaze says he will be. Moments later, Sonic comes bouncing down to the ground, dizzy. "Man, that was so much fun." Tangle helps Sonic to his feet, asking if his life is always this exciting. "If I can help it, yeah." So after some proper introductions, Sonic asks what's the occasion for Blaze coming by. She felt the will of the Soul Emeralds. She was sent here to help prevent a terrible event in Sonic's world. "No offense, but you're like 7 months too late. Eggman already locked me up and took over the world." "What?" Blaze is shocked at the news. "Oh no, it's cool, my friends busted me out, and we kicked his butt." Tangle then asks, what if this is just the beginning? What if something way worse is on its way? Blaze says that the Soul Emeralds aren't exactly chatty about the details. They just directed her here, and it was her purpose. But she will remain here until that purpose is made clear. Sonic snaps his fingers. "I knew I could count on you!" And as things begin to settle down in the town, elsewhere, there's a town unknowingly about to be in big trouble. Outside of a home, a mother tells her son to come in, and he tells her that he can't because his wagon is broken. And across the street, Dr. Eggman looks through the blinds. "Don't worry, little one. I'll fix that little red wagon. Soon, I'll be fixing everyone." And there you have it, the first of the Sonic comic books. Now it's all up to you, the viewer, if you want more of these. I just enjoy covering the lore and comic books to my favorite video games. And while I am focusing hardcore on Assassin's Creed, I do want to start looking at other series such as Final Fantasy, Resident Evil, Metal Gear Solid, and of course, Sonic. So let me know what you want in the comments down below, and give this video a like and subscribe if you want to be a part of it.